All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're not just reading a chapter from the Bible, we're stepping inside a deeply personal, powerful letter. We're going to walk through 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse by verse, and really uncover the kind of encouragement that feels like it was written just for us. Let's get started.
Right out of the gate, this is the core promise of the entire chapter, hiding in verse 7. It's this powerful declaration against fear and a call to a life of real strength, compassion, and just mental clarity. As we go through this, you're going to see exactly how Paul builds up to this incredible statement, and it all starts from a place of deep, personal connection.
So, to really get this, you have to frame it right in your mind. This isn't a sermon to a crowd. It's a personal letter from a mentor, Paul, to his young apprentice, Timothy. But the lessons here, the encouragement, the warnings, they're absolutely timeless. So as we read what Paul wrote to him, let's imagine he's writing it to us. Let's unroll the scroll.
Okay, verse 1. Paul kicks things off by introducing himself. He's not just some guy writing a letter. He's an apostle, a messenger, sent on a mission directly by God's will. Now verse 2. He turns to his friend, "To Timothy, my beloved son." You can just feel the warmth in those words, can't you? The letter opens not with a lecture, but with this incredible triple blessing: grace, mercy, and peace. Just picture 3 streams of light: brilliant gold for grace, deep blue for mercy, and pure white for peace, flowing right from the scroll and washing over you.
Now Paul pivots. He's talked about his own identity, and now he turns to Timothy's. He's about to remind him, hey, you're not starting from zero here. Timothy is part of a powerful story, a living, breathing legacy of faith. Verse 3. Get this picture in your head. Paul may be in a dark, cold prison cell, but his face is at peace because he's praying. He tells Timothy, I am constantly thinking about you in my prayers, day and night. And then verse 4, the memory gets really specific. Paul says he is mindful of your tears. He knows Timothy has been struggling. Imagine a single tear rolling down Timothy's cheek. But as Paul prays, that tear doesn't just dry up. It transforms into a tiny spark of light, a promise of the joy that's on its way.
Verse 5. And here, Paul tells us where his confidence in Timothy comes from. He sees a genuine faith in him. Not fake, not borrowed, but real. And he knows exactly where it came from. Picture this, a warm, bright sphere of light being passed from the hands of his grandmother, Lois, into the hands of his mother, Eunice. And then, from her hands, that very same light is placed right into Timothy's chest. It's a living inheritance.
So the point is crystal clear. Timothy is the next link in this powerful chain of faith. It's this legacy of trust and belief passed down through the generations. Paul is basically saying, I have zero doubt that the same incredible faith that lived in your grandmother and your mother is alive in you right now. It's your turn to carry the light.
So because Timothy has this incredible legacy already inside him, Paul's tone shifts. It gets more direct. It becomes a call to action. He's moving from reminding Timothy of who he is to telling him what he absolutely must do.
Verse 6, this is the central command, right here. Stir up the gift. Imagine a campfire that's burned down to just a bunch of glowing embers. It's still hot, there's still life in it, but it's not blazing. Paul is handing Timothy a pair of bellows and telling him to pump air and life back into those coals. Stir up means to reignite what's already there, to fan that spiritual gift into a roaring flame.
So, why can he do this? How? This verse gives us the reason. Because the Spirit God gives us is not one of fear. Picture a shadow, cowering, timid, shrinking back. Paul says that is not from God. Instead, picture a figure standing tall, radiating 3 distinct things. Power, like crackling energy in their hands. Love, like a warm, glowing heart. And a sound mind, a calm, clear focus. This, Paul says, is our true spiritual DNA.
Okay, so if you have this spirit of power, love, and clarity living inside you, what's the logical result? Well, you live boldly, right? Without shame, no matter what anyone else thinks. And that is exactly where Paul goes next.
Seriously, think about that for a second. In a world that often pushes back, that mocks faith, what does it really look like to be unashamed of what you believe? Paul's about to paint a very clear picture for us. Verse 8, the command is so direct. Do not be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of the message of Jesus, and hey, don't be ashamed of your connection to me, Paul, even though I'm a prisoner. Imagine standing tall while these shadowy fingers of accusation are pointing at you, but they can't break through a protective bubble of light. Paul isn't promising a life without struggles. He's promising the strength to handle them according to the power of God. So verse 9 gives us the first big reason for this boldness. See a powerful hand reaching down from the clouds and just lifting a person up. This salvation isn't something we earn, it's a gift, based on God's own eternal purpose. And then verse 10 gives us the mind-blowing climax of that purpose. Picture a dark, crumbling gravestone, and then suddenly this brilliant light bursts from within it, shattering the stone into a million pieces. That is what Jesus did. He abolished death and dragged immortality out into the light for all to see.
Verse 11, Paul lays out his own job description in this great story. He was appointed a preacher and an apostle to carry this news. But then verse 12, this is the linchpin. For this reason I also suffer, he says. The mission and the suffering, they're connected. But then he makes that powerful declaration, nevertheless, I am not ashamed. Just imagine the iron chains on Paul's wrists beginning to glow with this internal, unbreakable light. A prison can hold his body, but it has no power over his spirit.
Okay, the letter is now reaching its final, urgent plea. Paul has reminded Timothy of his heritage. He's commanded him to be bold. Now he tells him exactly how to persevere, by holding on for dear life to the truth. Verse 13, the instruction is to hold fast. I love that. Picture your hands gripping a solid golden rod that cannot be bent, it can't be broken. That is the truth he's received. Then verse 14 tells him to keep that truth, to guard it. Now imagine taking that golden rod and placing it inside a secure vault that's built right within your heart, and it's guarded 24/7 by the Holy Spirit.
And now, Paul gives this stark, real-world example of what happens when people don't hold fast. Verse 15 is just heartbreaking. He says, all those in Asia have turned away from me. Picture these figures literally turning their backs and just walking away into a cold fog. But then, verse 16 is like a burst of sunlight breaking through. He talks about a man named Onesiphorus, who often refreshed him. Imagine Paul exhausted in his cell, and this friend shows up with just a simple cup of cool water. It's life, it's hope.
Verse 17 shows you just how deep this loyalty went. Onesiphorus didn't just accidentally run into Paul. Picture him navigating this confusing maze of Roman streets, absolutely determined to find his friend in prison. He sought him out very zealously. Then, in verse 18, we see Paul's heart in response, this profound blessing for the one who stayed loyal, praying that he himself would receive that same kind of mercy from the Lord on the final day.
You see, this story of loyalty perfectly illustrates Paul's ultimate confidence, which he already stated back in verse 12, for I know whom I have believed. Notice that. It's not just what he believes, it's whom. His confidence isn't in his own ability to hold on. It's in God's ability to guard what Paul has entrusted to him, his life, his soul, everything until that final day.
So we end right where we started, with legacy. We saw that beautiful chain of faith pass from Lois to Eunice to Timothy. We saw the painful contrast between those who turned away and the one who remained loyal. Paul's letter really forces us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what's our story going to be? What legacy of faith, of courage, of loyalty will you leave behind?